All right. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to another episode of Houdini Secrets. We're going to continue our process of exploring very basic Houdini stuff. But before we get on, this happens to be just whatchamacallit. This is Halloween. Yay! Okay, and what's Halloween without some good old Oingo Boingo? And although Oingo Boingo has been away for a very long time, Danny Elfman has graced us with a little bit of sinister cynicism, and I want to play that for you right now as I continue to get things hooked up. So, yes, let's just get this going.
Nothing against live drawing, but this is way more interesting.
Never to be.
It's never too early to be high. It's 2020.
You don't want to be high and watch this.
Dude, one of our friends told me that she had a really nice day when she was tripping shrooms, and like she did everything right, like she was with her friends and stuff, and like she still had a horrible trip. So I can't imagine like seeing this disturbing stuff and still going with it. I mean, maybe the inverse will happen and you'll have like a really good time.
I feel like I'm not having a good time currently
Or a
watching this,
seizure.
so.
Well, it's not meant to be a good time.
It's like on these days talking.
And this is all about Houdini going right.
Dude, this isn't going wrong? Oh, nice. What about when it goes right?
Yeah, so this is all Houdini. So I thought it was appropriate that we watch this beforehand just to get a little bit of inspiration. We need to take attendance here. Okay, common.
Oh, did you get 300 credits for
Last week.
Mocap? Yeah.
Oh, from mocap?
Yeah.
No.
Oh. Yeah.
Okay, but I'm not responsible for
No,
mocap.
okay. I just remember one of the either you or Nick saying to send you to those. Haven't heard.
Oh, that. Yeah, you gotta give that to Nick because
Okay.
he keeps attendance.
Okay, I guess I'll ask Nick.
Yeah. Well,
Wait,
if I know that you guys were there, so you know I'll vouch for you if there's any question. So you can hear Jack Skellington in this. Okay. right. Thank you for letting me indulge into this bit for a while. And I'm going to continue making attendance. And let's see, if there's any people online that are art students at FIA and you are online, please chat something on there so I know that you're there. Because I can't hear you if you were to talk to me. But we got Chrissy, we got David. And Eric. And Tyler.
Bro, is that your actual wallpaper? That's sick.
I'm sorry?
Look at his wallpaper. Show me.
Let's see. Did you create that?
No. I wish. I just found it.
Okay, yeah, that's cool.
Absolutely sick, dude.
Wallpaper is great.
Yeah.
It's a lot of
Okay, Kelsey. And we got all right, very cool. All right, very good. Got you all. All right, now since we've got a lot of modelers in here, what I wanted to do is kind of change things up a little bit today. And what we're going to do is we're still going to go over Houdini basics, but instead of going into more of the UE4 integration stuff, I wanted to just give you just a proper foundation into Houdini foundational modeling. You know, very, very simple basics on how to use Houdini as basically as a hard surface modeler to begin with. I mean, I wouldn't start launching into things like organic surfaces. Stick with Maya for that for the time being. But in the meantime, you could use Houdini as a possible alternative. Oh, Pedro is here. Okay, good. Okay. All right, good. Very good. All right, we've got Pedro here. Very good, very good. All right. And I thought last week's session worked very well, at least as far as if you have any questions. So please feel free to just chime in and ask questions along the way. All right.
So if you could, go ahead and open up.
Uh-oh. We've been demonstrating, okay. Oh, there we go. There we go. We see, we have the Houdini stuff. We should be there. All right. Hopefully always there. But if not, you heard disembodied voices and singing people up until this point. Can you guys see everything? Good. All right. Now, what I want you to do is, last week you hopefully created a project. What I want you to do is return to this project. So you would return to it, you go to File, go to Set Project, and then you navigate to where your project top folder is. And in that case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat. I'm going to go to File instead of Set Recent Projects, and you should only have one project there. And so you could go to that. So you could use either of those two techniques. Now, if you haven't created a project, you'll want to create a brand new project. And you do that by going to File, New Project. You set your destination path for that someplace where you know that you'll be able to find it again. And then your project name. And then click Accept. And it will create a brand new project for you and put you inside of that project. But I'm going to do this. We are not going to be building up on the last Houdini session. We're going to be developing all new concepts and so forth. So what was presented to you last week, we're not going to go back and visit. We're not building on top of that. So we're going to be creating some but this week we're just going to be focusing on more basics. And let's see. Oh yeah, you guys you folks are, let's see, looking at this in your screen. If you have your own private desktop, go ahead and grab your own private desktop. Otherwise, follow along. I think you'll be able to figure out what I'm doing after a while. But if there's any confusion on what I'm doing, just please go ahead and raise your hand. Because I'm going to change this to what I like is my demo mode. And my demo mode has a nice big area for the viewport and a very big area for my network view, and a little area for the parameters. So it hopefully is a little bit better for broadcasting. So what we're going to do is we're going to drop a box into a scene, but we're going to use a new technique to drop the box into a scene. Well, you know that when we create a box, we could just drop the box by clicking box and then dragging and dropping it on there, and then you can hit enter, or you can click anywhere on the screen and it'll put it there, or if you just hit enter by default, it'll put it right at the 0th place, or the 0 spot. Okay, that's one technique. As always said, the folks over at Side Effects always give you enough rope to shoot yourself with. And so, like, there's more than one way of doing anything. And another way that we did things, if you go over into your network box and then hit the tab key, drop a geometry container. Okay, this is the container that contains all of the geometry. If we double click to go into the geometry container, we're in now geometry mode. And so now what we do now is we add surface operations, or otherwise known as SOPs. So if you click on tab, and you can lay down box, and lo and behold, there's our box again. And so really what we did before here when we clicked onto the box and then dropped it in, it was doing just the exact same thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the U key to go back up into object mode, and I'm going to select my box and hit delete to get rid of it. And I'm going to show you one more technique. If you put your mouse inside of the viewport here and then press the letter C, a radial menu will pop up. And then I'm going to go down south to create, down south again to geometry, and there's all the various primitives that we have access to, and we can click box, and then once again we get to pick and drop wherever we want to drop that into. Okay, everyone able to get a box on the screen? Anyone stuck on that? Okay, now Houdini exists on multiple modes, and you can get a hint on what those modes are, but they're not really modes, they're just aspects of everything that Houdini is. And it's all from the top level here. But if you want to find out all the other aspects that you can barge into Houdini, if you click on this bar up here where there's a little film clapper and it says OBJ, click that, and then you can see there's other networks you could go into. If you're into rigging or into procedural motion, the CH is an area that you want to hang out. This is an area called chops. If you want to do some compositing, it's not as robust as Nuke or Fusion, but the Houdini compositor is not bad. It gets the job done. Matte gets you into the material editor. We're not going to go into that quite yet, but we will eventually, like within either next week or the week after. OBJ is where you do your modeling. It's where you do that, and that's how you have access to the SOPs and the surface operations. Out is an output network. So, you know how you go in Maya, you go save as or export as? Well, in Houdini, there are a million different ways of doing this. And what you do that is you create an output network. And that means that when you hit the output button, what you can do is output multiple layers. You could output
output the ambient pass, you can output the specular pass, you can output the normal pass, you can output multiple different passes. It's entirely configurable up to you. Now shop is deprecated. They're probably not going to use that before. But stage is something that you're probably going to start using sometime within the next 5 years, my guess is. Because this is, who's heard of USD? Okay, a couple people have heard about USD. USD is called Universal Scene Description Language, and what it is a way of defining data in such a way that it is mutually shareable with other packages all around, such that all packages that are displaying USD can display the exact same thing, and what you will see in Maya is what you will see inside of UE4, is what you will see in Unity, is what you will see in Houdini. And that's never happened before. But now we're on the precipice of actually going into that realm, and that's a really exciting thing. But it causes us to define our data in a different paradigm. And so FBX, in my humble opinion, will probably be going away in lieu of this USD eventually. Because USD is a non-destructive data format. That means multiple people can contribute to the same data set at the same time. People, thousands of people working on the same data at the same time, none of it clobbering each other, and none of it destructive, meaning that you can't destroy what has already happened. You can always go back to it easily with others. So I'm really excited about the whole USD thing. And what's this last network? Tasks. We're not going to do it this semester, but if you're still interested, next semester we'll be going into tasks, and this is how you can take advantage of performing Houdini on parallel process and render farms dynamically, so that you're doing complicated simulations, like if you do a water simulation. Now, water simulation can take a really long time. If you ever saw that water simulation that is up on the FIA introduction, where you see the little tugboat going up and down on the waves and so forth, it took the tech artists there 40 hours to render that. But with PDG and these tasks, what you could do is distribute that entire operation amongst massively parallel machines and actually probably get the whole thing done in an hour. So that's really powerful. I had JR set up Houdini so that we could distribute its processes onto the entire render farm, so it does have access to us. So really exciting stuff. So those are the various other top-level networks that we can go into. But we're going to focus primarily just on the object network and the SOP network. Some of the other things that you can put onto the into this object network are other object things you might find in various scenes. Let's see. You can put characters. You see, there's hair, import managers, and this is all packing stuff. But there's things like cameras. And there's things like lights that you can drop in. There's various lights that you can drop in. So yeah, these are all various things. So basically this is your world space editor. Now that probably doesn't mean anything to you, but when you start studying a little bit more about the rendering pipeline, you understand that there is local space or object space, and that is the space that an object exists within its own little realm. Now, if you abstract that and have it interacting with all the other objects into the scene, then you're talking about interacting with the objects in world space. So really, what object space, well, object level is really your object space editing or your world space editing. Your SOP is your local or your model-based model space. Now, I know I realize that's a whole bunch of abstract gobbledygook, but if you ever want to talk about that kind of stuff, you know, swing on by. All right, so let's drop into our network. Double-click on the box object. And as we saw before, if we drag like any of these corner points around, we can adjust the size of our object. If we grab the little arrows right here, it'll cause scaling. If we want, we can grab the transform jack and rotate it. And I encourage you just to kind of play around with the various controls. It's a full service. It's a full service. If you are not able to, is everyone able to access this input mode? If you get out of it, like suddenly you don't see it anymore, what you can do is very easily put your mouse, or select the operation that you're currently wanting to deal with. Select the node, put your mouse inside of the viewport, and then just hit the enter key. And that should get you back into the interactive mode. Now we played around with this a little bit last week. Now Houdini gives various opportunities to play with lots of little things. You can go and make with the polygon mesh. You can do polygons, polygon meshes, NURBs, but these all look the same. But the data is organized in a different manner. And that data is very, very important. Once you start dealing with modeling procedurally, then you understand that the order that the data is, how the data is ordered, suddenly takes on a whole new dimension. And it becomes the absolute crucial element to making systems work correctly. Suppose what we say is axis divisions equals 2, 2, 2. If we change this to a mesh, then change this to axis divisions, we can type in just random numbers. Let's how about 2, 4, and 6. Let's see. Oh, we can see it a little bit. If we want to see what this thing looks like in wireframe mode, just put your cursor in there, hit the W key. Oops. And that will get you into wireframe view mode. And if you hit W again, you'll return back to smooth shaded. Now what we're doing here, if we're looking at smooth shaded here, all the lines go away. But if we hit Shift W, we toggle back and forth between here, between smooth shaded and smooth wire shaded. That's just a little bit of interesting thing if you want to see what the actual structure of the data is that you're working with. Now the connectivity, whether this is rows, columns, triangles, quadrilaterals, I mean, like if you like working with triangles, this is going to see the same, alternating triangles. Well, we can't really see it in this for a mesh. Well, how about if it's a polygon? How about a polygon mesh? Ah, there it is. So if you wanted to work with triangles instead of working with quads, you can work with triangles. And it really all depends on your primitive type. Once again, why would you use triangles versus quads? Well, you might want to know how your data is going to be going into the rendering pipeline. And so this tells you the order in which it is, because the rendering pipeline translates every single primitive you put into the rendering pipeline, it triangulates it. If it gets a quad, it triangulates it. If it gets a triangle, it triangulates it again. So this kind of tells you how it does work. And that's what you do with the connectivity. Well, we're just going to keep it at the quads for now. But there's an additional thing here. If you, let me show you, might already be available to you. Yes, yes it is. Okay, since you guys are already into this build mode, if you press this geometry spreadsheet, this gives you a spreadsheet that tells you what all the data of your object you're currently working in have. And it's controlled by these 4 little nodes here. What this little one on the far left with the kind of yellow dots means is points mode. So what you're doing is you're looking at the point data. The one right next to it is the vertex data. Now, I don't really want to go into the difference right now between points and vertices, but just know that points don't necessarily have to correspond to vertices, and vertices are based on points. And it's important to know because it's a way of, once again, it's data management of whether you're working with points and vertices. Vertices are a way of saving time and saving memory. Okay, this third one here is primitives. And right now we don't see it, there's nothing really here on the primitives. That means that the primitives themselves don't have any kind of special data associated with them. And that's fine. And this last one is a group, meaning like, okay, this whole object as a group has certain parameters and details and attributes that can pertain to it. And this shows you what those exactly are. But right now, this is a real simple object. And so all we're doing is looking at points. And in fact, all we're looking at is the point position. That's what this PX, PY, and PZ stand for up here. And those are the point positions. Okay, any questions about what we've done here? I'm kind of going over this a little bit fast because we kind of went over it last week. It's kind of like a review, just a review of everything. But we're going to start to go into the other thing. If you want to go back to the viewport board, come back here where it says Scene View. Click on the Scene View, and this kind of shuffles back to the viewport. All right, Houdini is a little bit like UE4, as I mentioned before, that they kind of grow on top of each other. If you have a node and you want to create a brand new duplicate, it's really cool. Just hit the node, just grab the node, hit the Alt key, and then drag, and that creates an exact duplicate of it. And that creates an exact duplicate of whatever you press. So if you've selected 1,000 nodes, and then hit Alt and then drag, you're going to duplicate those exact 1,000 nodes. It's a real time saver. Okay, it says the Houdini input parameter dial. I forgot what that means, so I'm going to skip that. But we went over this a little bit last week, and I just want to do a quick review. What you click is maybe not what you're going to display in the render. So here we are, I'm clicking WW1, or in this my box 1 object. And I have the little blue chiclet here. This is my display flag. And so that's going to show, whatever's on this blue display flag, it's going to show what is actually being displayed at the time. But if I click on the first box, I can see the wireframe or the interface of actually what this is actually doing. So what I'm doing is I'm actually looking at the controls in the interface for this first one, even though I'm displaying the first box. So this can get a little bit confusing at times. And so what I like to do is, as soon as I move my display flag onto a different SOP, I like to click it so I know that what I'm being displayed is what I'm interacting with at the same time. Now there's a couple of other, if you wanted to set the flag, instead of just pressing the chiclet, you could press this little flag up here and it does the same thing here. This pink little T thing is a template. If you click that, it will display the template. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move one of these guys over just a little bit. Oops, that's the size. Okay, so this guy is templated here, and then we're looking at the template, but this guy is the one being displayed. Well, I just swapped them. You see there? And so you can go back and forth. So to add to the confusion here, the template shows the template for what your objects that you're currently looking at. Now there are other objects. If you want to skip a node entirely, if you don't want the node to be considered into the chain, click this yellow button. This is a bypass. And when you click that, it will, this node will no longer be considered as part of the data chain. It will just skip right over it. If there's a whole bunch of operations before and a whole bunch of operations afterwards, it just skips right over it. And this is the freeze button, the lock. That's why it's like an ice cube. And what that does is it actually stores the current node in memory. And it saves the current node in it and becomes part of the actual scene graph. And which is unusual because normally your scenes are very small because they all get generated procedurally. But when you start freezing stuff, that actually takes a snapshot of what the data actually is at that moment in time. And so actually this can be used when you're doing massive simulations and you want to freeze a simulation in a current state. You freeze it, snap it, and it always goes from this spot and it never changes. And it will ask you if this operation will discard lock changes. Yeah, go ahead, click OK, and it just so you know you're going to be losing information. That could be a destructive operation. If you unfreeze something, that means you're going to be allowing changes to happen. Okay, when you're dealing with multiple nodes, if you want to combine them, if you were to click off of here and then hit tab and then throw in a merge node and then drag this off over here and then put the display on the merge flag, now we've combined whatever is inputted into this merge node gets combined into one object. Now, I made the connection just by dragging the little node for here and then dropping it right into there. Now, if I wanted to sever this merge node from these two nodes, there's a bunch of different ways I could do it. One, I could select each of these little lines and then hit the delete key, and it will delete. Or I can press the Y key, and I like to think of the Y kind of looks like scissors. And so if you click Y, it creates scissors, and it cuts the lines. And my favorite, when I'm really feeling energetic, is just to grab it and shake the hell out of it, and it disappears. And there's multiple ways of connecting things. You could just drag and drop, but, oh, tell me if you guys can do this. I don't know if you can do this, but I can. If you press J and then drag from one thing, you just drag it off onto here. Can you guys do that? Is anyone working on 18.5 here?
On what?
You're working on 18.5, Nathan?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, then you should be able to do this. I don't know if you can do this with version 18. So with 18.5, if you want to, instead of just dragging and dropping, if you press J, you can freeform and go. It's like, oh, okay, I'm going to draw over here and connect it there. Boom. Now here is a weird thing about the merging, is that you'll see that this first box is merged in twice. And so that means we have two duplicates of this first box represented in the merge node. So it is possible to go ahead and get more information on top of each other and you're not even aware of it. So I'm just going to go like a mad dog and shake the hell out of this. Clean that. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and just drag and select all of these and then hit delete and just get rid of these. Now there are some other primitives that you might be dealing with. If you hit tab and just type in the word tube, there are some tubes that you can deal with. And tubes are made up of primitives, and that's what we're looking at as a parametric definition of here. But most probably what you'll be working with are polygons. And when it's in polygon modes, the radius, it has an upper radius and a lower radius. It's got a radius scale. It's got a height. They control the height there. It's got stuff where you can control the number of rows, or the number of columns. You can put on end caps that will put the caps on the end. You can change its orientation so that it's oriented on the y-axis, the x-axis, or the z-axis. And if you want this to look like in NURBS or curves, you could choose NURBS, and it's done up in NURBS. It's all good. I'm gonna get rid of the tube and drop in a sphere. Okay, now it's rare that people actually work with primitive spheres. Not a lot of folks do, but they use it in order to visualize particles. Because then, actually, in this state of the definition for displaying this thing, it's very efficient. It's pure math. Now, you don't know what this equation is, and it's not showing it to you, but that's what it is. It's just pure math. If you click on the I key here to get the information on here, this is all the data that it's stored in. It's just one primitive, one point, one vertex, and just one sphere. So it's very efficient. So that's why people use primitives to visualize particles. But most of the time, folks use polygons if they want kind of like a geodesic frequency there. And you can change, with that, you can change frequency and it gets more and more highly defined. If you choose a polygon mesh, then it looks kind of like your standard rows and columns in your spheres. But be warned, when you're dealing with spheres in this mode, you end up with what one artist used to call the cat bum in the texture, because it looks like, you know, cat butt, you know, that's got a real tight behind and so forth. And that's what the texture looks like. So he calls it the cat bum. And so likewise with the spheres, you can change this orientation, you can change the number of rows, you can change the number of columns, lots of stuff. I'm gonna get rid of my sphere. They got the donut or the torus. Now this has an inner radius and an outer radius. So there's the outer radius and this is the inner radius. You can change its center, you can, because of rotation, uniform scale. You can once again change the rows and columns. Now for this, there is no parametric definition, so you can either use polygons or meshes, and they kind of look exactly the same. But you can change its connectivity if you so chose. So donuts, yeah, I don't know, I usually don't model with donuts a whole lot, but they're useful. But what I do use a lot are grids. So if I hit the tab and then type in grid, that lays down a plane that I can control the size, the number of rows, and the number of columns. Very, very useful. We can change its orientation to be the XY plane, the YZ plane, or the ZY or the ZX plane, depending on which plane we want the grid to reside in. And likewise, we could go with polygons, meshes, or we can even go into NURBS and all these other crazy things. But usually, polygons are very good. If you wanted to create a line to start with, lines are really, what you would do is reduce the number of rows to just one. And it's really kind of hard to see that we've got this white line that's right here, right in the middle. But it says it has 10 columns. So that means it's got 10 points in there. How do we know? Okay, if you look over onto the left or the right-hand side of the viewport, we can actually display the points. And so if I click this, display the point, we would actually see the points visually on the surface. I'm going to get rid of my input manager. Just cut it away. And so if you wanted to go in and, let's just say you wanted to, if you had a function, that somebody gave you a function and you're probably going, God, man, I hate math. Someone gives me a function and I'm supposed to know what it's doing? Ah! So what you could do is you just grab a line and you just add like 1,000,000 points to it. Here it is. It's 50 points. And then all you have to do is apply your function to every one of these points, and this will automatically form the graph that you wanted to see. And you can actually see, okay, what's this function is, this is what it's doing for. We'll go more into that later, but that's all more kind of like crazy procedural modeling things. We'll get into that eventually. I'm going to get rid of that. Now, a lot of fun is if you hit tab and type in the word Platonic, and look for Platonic solids. This is actually kind of groovy, because if you wanted to go and model your own Dungeons and Dragons dice, you know, and it's like, hey man, look at this, I just modeled my own dice set. Well, you can start off with tetrahedrons. If you go to solid type, change that over to cubes. Octahedrons. Icosahedrons. Does anybody know how many sides an icosahedron is? I do not know. It's not 20-sided, is it? I can't remember.
It's 20 sides.
It's 20 sides?
Yeah.
Okay, so there you go. If you ever wondered how to create a icosahedron or a 20-sided dice, this is how you do it. Okay, a dodecahedron. Okay, so what's this one? Is this 10-sided?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, 4. Oh wait, this is 12-sided. Yeah, 12-sided. Okay. But if you just wanted to go and fart around with a soccer ball, you can fart around with a soccer ball, which is something parametric. And if you really must, you want to play with the Utah teapot, you can play with the Utah teapot.
Is there a reason it's Utah?
Is there a reason? Yeah, because computer graphics was invented in Utah.
Oh.
And you guys have all seen this teapot before. Like, what is the teapot kind of the symbol of? You guys should know this. Okay, what's the first computer animation company? Pixar. Okay, Ed Catmull, who is now the senior VP of Disney or something like that, and all these other guys that are just smarter than all hell. Back in the 60s, invented computer graphics. Now it's hard to say that like Ed Catmull really invented computer graphics. Yeah. Okay, he and about 3 other guys were graduate students in the University of Utah in the 60s and 70s. And they basically invented computer graphics. And one of the first things they created was, voila, a formula to create a teapot. Ed Catmull took that teapot and he created it as the symbol for Pixar. And so now when you go to SIGGRAPH or GDC or see something from Pixar, you get a little wind-up model and you have your Utah teapot with little feet and a little walk across this table. Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, you ever get to like GDC or SIGGRAPH like with Pixar is there, you can get yourself a walking teapot. It's a thing to do. Okay, but let's just go ahead and keep things simple and just drop in a box. Now, what we're going to do is currently this menu. When we press this, we put the mouse in here and hit the C key, we get this kind of like this radial menu that is for, you know, that kind of like looks for our create and so forth like that. But what we cannot find it to, okay, fine, all right. But that's all set by this main radial menu. If we want to change that, let's change it to polygon modeling. So poly model, that is right here. And now when we hit C, we get a whole bunch of different objects in here. And we're going to show you what some of these things do. Okay. Now this is kind of work, and now I can't get this to work all the time, admittedly. But if you're if you're in if you're out of the selection mode, if you hit the 4 key, you get to it goes to the right viewport. No, that's not what I wanted. If you hit the 4 key again, it goes there. It toggles to the left, to the right, left and the right. That's not what I want. So click where it says right, set view, and then change that to perspective viewport. Okay, what you really got to do is click on the arrow key, and that gets you into the select mode. And then now you can select stuff into the scene. Now currently, here is the little menu that shows you what you can select. If you want to select points, you'll see that now that we can select points. The second one is edges. If we want to select edges, we can select edges. The third one is primitives. And this fourth one, what's this fourth one? Oh, select vertices. Well, okay. Yeah, we won't go into what vertices are right now. But what we're going to do is just put this in primitive mode, and just click the top polygon.
I made my box invisible, but first I turned it into terrain by accident when you had the C menu come up.
Okay, we'll delete it.
Oh, no, I have, and now they're invisible forever. I
Okay.
haven't been able to make them visible again.
All right, let's see what you got. Okay, you're in the object level. Oh, and you just got big. So here, oops.
Oh, am I just zoomed out really fast?
Yeah, you just really out there.
Okay, never mind. It's not invisible, I'm just dumb.
Yep, just small. That's all.
Like my brother, it's fine.
No worries. You know what? Get out there, break things. You know, that's how you learn. So to explain everything again, so what we're going to do is we're going to go and make sure that this top box is selected. Anyone have any problems grabbing this top box? Or the top of the box, I'm sorry, the top polygon. So I'm going to press the C key, and then I'm going to choose Poly Extrude, which is the one at 3 o'clock. Just click that, and you'll see the handle appear on there. Go ahead and pull the handle, and you can control its how far it's extruded. If you go and press the actual poly extrude node, then you can see that you can control the distance by moving that in and out. You can control its inset by how far it insets in or insets out, back and forth. You can put a twist in there. Or the number of or you can create the number of divisions. So I can put a bunch of divisions in there, or a twist in there. Now I can increase the number of divisions, and now I can twist the dickens out of this thing. And if I want to modify the inset, we can pull that to a nice small point. And if I wanted to just drag this, and so what I have is a nice little pinnacle up there. So go ahead and play around with it, and kind of get the feel of how this all over works. It's just distance, inset, twist, and divisions. Okay, anyone have any problems? Everyone have a chance to get a chance to play around with that? Now, that can be extended one step further. So if you go back into the selection mode and then hit Shift, you can select the front Z and the front X faces. And then hit C and Poly Extrude again. Now when you pull that out, ooh, accidentally pulled something I wasn't supposed to here. I'm going to get rid of that. 5. There. All right, so what we're doing is we're extruding both of these faces at the exact same time. Now, suppose that we didn't want them to be combined. Suppose we wanted them to go individually. If we go and divide into where it says connected components, we change that to individual components. Then they still move at the same time, but now they're treated as unique objects rather than one combined objects. Now, here's something that's cool. Since we've got both of these selected, let's go ahead and keep on playing with it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move this out here, and then I'm going to hit the Q key, and that duplicates the exact last step. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of fart around here, and I'm going to create a bit of a doorknob here. Okay, we got 1 and 2 individual elements. Okay, if I hit Q again, okay, then I can change I can pull that out some more. Oh wait, polygon. If I click that, then the distance here. Oh, there we go. And then I expand that out just a little bit. If I hit Q again, oops, I just made that insignificant. I undid that. Q, I'm going to drag that out. And I keep on expanding more than one thing at once. I keep clicking this node because this is the one that I want to control. And so I just keep on adding poly extrudes until my heart's content. Oh, what was that? Oh, okay, I get it. And so I guess they want you to do that. Okay, so hit Q again and pull that out. And then expand it a little bit more. Q again. Expand it out a little bit more. A little bit smaller. Pull that in just a little bit. And then hit Q once again. Pull that just a little bit more. I want you to just go ahead and play around with just this a little bit. So I'm just end up something like that. So this will repeat the command for as many faces as you start pulling across here. And all I did was just create a simple little taper. And what's cool is that you could go in at any time into any of these nodes. And let's say I'm going to go right in the middle here, like poly extrude 4. And I could play with that, or maybe just throw in a twist. And it'll do just that node. But let's see, the inset. Oh, there it is. If I go to poly extrude 1, oh, there's that poly extrude 2 is right over there. I can make the inset on that smaller. Okay, any questions on how that works? I'm going to put the display, back on that and click onto that. Now, suppose we wanted to okay, that's how you would play around with this with faces. Now what if we wanted to go and play around with some edges? If we go into the select mode again, and then we click on the edge icon for the selection here, we can start selecting edges. Now we can select this edge, or we can select that edge. Now it selects one edge at a time, but if you wanted to hit shift, you could select multiple edges at any one time. Or if you were to double click one of the edges, it selects the entire loop for you. Which is actually kind of convenient. And if we select this edge right here and then hit Shift plus A, do I have the caps lock or something going on here? What this will, oh yeah, this will actually find the shortest path to, if you hit Shift plus A, it'll find the path to the mouse of wherever your original click was. And so that's all right. So once you collect some of these once you select one of these edges, what do you do with them? Well, what you could do is I'm going to double click this edge, and then I'm going to shift select and then double click this edge, and then maybe this edge here, and maybe this edge here. What you could do is then drop in a bevel. So I'm going to go hit C, poly bevel, and you'll see that they turn kind of blue. And this one doesn't have a very interactive menu with, but what you do is if you click on your poly bevel and you see distance, drag select distance, and that controls the distance at which the bevel gets created. And if you want it to get created into multiple shapes, you could go into the divisions, and that divides it into things, and you can tell it what kind of shape to follow when you create the bevel, whether that be a round, a solid shape, a crease, a chamfer, or a round. And it detects collisions. So if I wanted to, if I wanted to go ahead and just keep on expanding this, this actually starts combining faces. Once it encounters, it gets so large, it starts hitting other bevels, it starts combining the end results. All right, I want to make sure I select nothing. So I'm just going to go into the select mode and then select some place onto there where there's nothing selected. I'm going to hit C, and then I'm going to choose edge loops. And so I can drop in edge loops wherever I select and put this on, whether that be front or back, and we can drop in the edge loops according to that. And if I hit Q again, okay. I don't know how I got that one about it go long-wise, but it did it. When you click in and put in, let's see, I'm going to go ahead and hit C, and the poly bevel, the edge loops. If I click into there, and then when it's orange like this, if I scroll the mouse wheel on that, it will increase the number of divisions it creates.
So I actually don't see the edge loops tool when I hit C.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, what you have to do is go up here where it says poly well, actually what it says is main,
Yes.
change it to polymodel,
Gotcha.
and that will give access to all of those.
Fabulous.
All right, any questions on how to use that? As you can see, it's still, every time you create an operation, it just slaps that operation lengthwise along the way. And so any one of those is removable or changeable at any given time. That's why I said Houdini is non-destructive and it keeps record of everything, so you can just keep on adding on top of everything. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm not going to use the interactive editor. I'm just going to select this last poly split. I'm going to drag that off on here. I'm going to click tab, and then I'm going to go bend. And I'm going to put the display on the bend. Grab rotation handle and bend. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to hit enter. Aha. So what that did was it created a new, if I hit enter to go into the interactive mode, you'll see the box shows you where the bend is going to be applied to. This green arrow shows where to move these things to. So everything within the box will get bent. Now, if you want to change the, if you want that to add this bend, you say, okay, but if you don't want it to go this way, you want it to go backwards and forward, then you can change the up vector to something like maybe Z. And up vector control, mode, angle. Up vector angle, up, mode angle, direction, go direction, aha. So if I change that instead of 001, all right, so let's go there. Nope, that's not it.
What do we have to do to apply this bend to the geometry? I'm not getting that.
Ah, okay. Well, I'll repeat the process.
Because it's only to select the geometry, but
Yep. So on this, I'm going to select the last operation. I'm going to drop in a bend node.
oh, you gotta plug it in. Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then what you can do is if you want to look for, scroll down to the bottom where it says capture. What you can do is set the capture region, and then wherever you click and then drag and then click again, that will set where your axis will take place. So set the capture region, and I'm going to change that to Z-axis. And if I want that to revolve around the Z-axis, I'm going to click here and there, and now I can move it in the Z-axis. But it's funky looking. And so it'll bend in that direction. So wherever you click on the set capture region, and it will set that that is the area that you want to be deformed. Now it does have, once you throw a bend in there, it does have twist, where you can go ahead and add twists in with the bend. You can change the scale, which is like groovy for installing squash and stretch for your characters. because you can preserve volume, and then you can put that into there and model the squash and stretch right into the character. Or you can go taper, and that will cause the tapering to get smaller or bigger, depending on where you go. Or you can squish it. Okay, any question on what we were doing up until this point here? All right, now last week I said that because Houdini is kind of like more of a procedural type DCC, that's not really geared towards pulling points, but sometimes you just got to go and pull yourself some points, right? So what you got to do is, in the perspective, I'm going to go into the selection mode, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a point. I'm going to change this thing over to points, and then I'm going to select I'm going to shift select maybe these 2 points that I've got right here. Now, you see that you've got 3 little controllers here, one for translation, one rotation, and one is for scale. Now you can go ahead and directly translate, rotate, or scale these points. So if I click T, or the translate one, then it puts a transform jack in here. So now I can go ahead and start pulling these points and move them to anywhere I want. Or if I want to grab if I want to select something brand new again, if I want to select these points, I shift select these points, hit my translation, and then I can just pull the thing. I had selected these nodes as well. Come on. If I hit Control, I can unselect. Okay, there it is. Hit the translation. And now I can start pulling points wherever you want. But watch out, you can create non-polygonal polygons like this. Yeah?
If mine started, it seemed like it was doing it when the bend was going on, like it was working non-destructively. So like now when I move stuff, it moves it, but like it only moves the wireframe. Yeah. It's like a preview kind of.
Oh, well then click on the last node.
On the bend node?
Yeah.
Correct.
Just click it.
Yeah.
And is the display flag on it? The little blue flag?
Oh, it wasn't. Now it is.
Okay.
It's giving me a warning now.
Uh-oh, a warning, really? Let's go see what this warning is. Oh, shucks.
Oh, okay, I got it.
Okay, and once you've got these things, you can choose the rotations, and you can rotate them however you want also. No wonder that looked funky. I've got back-facing points there. So these are the kind of fundamental basics of the Houdini, polygonal modeling stuff. Now they got lots of other modeling stuff. If you want to model in NURBS, they got NURBS controls. If you want to model in points and in volumes, you can model in volumes. But this is kind of like just the beginning thing. I wouldn't use Houdini as a sculpting package. Stick with ZBrush. Or if you're going to be modeling organic characters, you might want to stick with that. Houdini's good for hard surface modeling and for other things that don't require a lot of tension, but to each their own. I've seen people model really nice stuff with Houdini before, and to them, whether you're using the Houdini, Maya, or Blender, it doesn't really matter. It's really all the same to them. but because pulling points is a non-destruct, pulling points is a destructive methodology. The folks at Side Effects really don't focus too hard on it. It's not really one of their primary focuses. All right, so that's it. Let's go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and save this file. I forgot to save along the way. That's bad. Okay, if I click Job here, that'll put us inside of the project that we're in. I'm going to just call this Poly Model. So that's just a little bit of reference. But if I go up, and I don't want to work on that model anymore, I'm going to click off the display flag on my box object. And then I'm going to add a brand new geometry container. And I'm going to drop into it, and then I'm going to drop in just another box. All right, remember what I said that the numbers and the orders of the numbers of the objects and so forth is very important to Houdini? Well, procedurally, it's all about how you manipulate different objects in different faces and different numbers. So if we click on this and then go into the select mode with the arrow, and I'm going to choose my polygons, I'm going to select my front Z face. There it is. Now, if you look on the right-hand side, you'll see a bunch of stuff on here, and if it's not exposed, go and hit this little arrow at the bottom, and the little icon is here. But look for the icon that has like a rectangle with the number 12 on top of it. Click that, and what that does is it turns on the polygon number for this. So, we're looking at a box. How many sides does a box have? It has 6. Right, so there should be 6 numbers on here. And if you look around and dolly around it, you should be able to find those 6 objects. And that's very important to understand which group that they're using. Now, if we wanted to go, and since we grabbed this plus X, if we hit the C key and go Poly Extrude again, and then we drag that off, you'll notice that now it creates brand new numbers. And those new numbers correspond to the new polygons that get created and so forth. But if you look onto this Poly Extrude, come up here to where it says group, and there's the value of 2. And if you look closely, what you had before is no longer 2, it's, what is that number? I can't see it. 8? Oh, 9? 9? So it was 9. But if we click on the box and put the display on the box, we see that it used to be 2. So therefore, this Poly Extrude node took face number 2, and then it extruded that. Now suppose that we just said, oh, okay, I didn't want to do a face number 2. I meant to do it on face number 1. You could just go ahead and change that number, and it'll just move it right on over. Or to any other thing. Okay, change it to 4. But there's a little bit of a problem when you're dealing with working with just these numbers. And it could be risky, and I'm going to show you why. It's because we had selected, like right now I have the top node, 4, okay? Now if I go over to box, and I change my primitive type to polygon mesh, and suddenly it whacks out. My number 2 node, it's still grabbing number 2, but number 2 is no longer where number 2 was. It's a whole bunch of different things, and I'm going, oh shit. What I should have grabbed was not 2, but I should have grabbed 0 through 0 through 8. Oh man, they didn't tell me that. And so 2 ended up, just sticking around that. So that is, a problem that can be done. So there's ways of getting around that, and it's called grouping. And you group your data, you create groups of data, and then you perform operations upon those groups rather than on the specific data numbers. Okay, so let's, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that poly extrude node. Delete. Oh, I'm sorry. Hit Control Z. Bring back that poly extrude. And so which one was I poly extruding on? Oh yeah, 4, which was the top. And it's no longer 4, it's crazy business. All right, now if we were to go and just click someplace arbitrarily in here and hit Tab, and then just drop in a group node. We got group. Now if we just slide the group node in between box and poly extrude, it'll hook up automatically. And I'm going to put the display onto group so that we know what we're dealing with. And then I'm going to change where it says group name, I'm going to change this to 2_extrude. Because this is I'm going to create a group that I want to do the extrusion. Now suppose that I had wanted to do, I'm going to set this box where it says the axis division is 444, I'm going to set that to 222. So it's something manageable and where my notes are. Now suppose I just wanted this top node, whatever the top is. I have no idea what the top is, but look at that. So I'm going to click on group, and where it says base group, I'm going to just type in the number 2. And so that is now put into the group here. Now if we drop into the poly extrude, instead of where it groups 4, go ahead and delete that. But in the little arrow next to the box, drag and find your group name, and it should be 2extrude. And if I put on the display on the poly extrude, then you can see it's now done that to the top of the group only, and to only that object. Okay, anyone have any problems getting that going? Now, suppose that we know that we don't know how many faces our box is going to be, and it's going to change. So we got to think about this a little bit. So we can't just use numbers. Numbers is just too limiting. And honestly, I have a hard time remembering numbers. That's why I work with computers, because computers are really good at it. And so I'll let the computers worry about that. So I'm going to say I don't want to deal with numbers. So I'm going to click where it says base group, where it says enable. I'm going to click that off. And then I'm going to click where it says keep in bounding region. I'm going to enable that. Whoa! And then it got really big. And now, because the size of that, let me click in group and then hit enter. I'm gonna put the display on group. And there is a box that got created here. You know, this box is kind of an imaginary box. But if I go ahead and like move it or grab it up and maybe expand it around a little bit, wherever this box is now containing is what will be selected. And so now we see that this box, does a pretty good job of encircling the top of our original box. Now, if we wanted to, we could click on Include Partially Contained Entities. If we click that, then whatever the bounding box touches will be included in that. So I'm going to keep that, I'm going to turn that off. Oh, move that along. And so that's going to move everything but the bottom box is now selected. Now if we go Poly Extrude, now everything that's selected is going to be extruded. I'm going to go ahead and where it says divide into connected components, I'm going to change that to individual elements. And now what we have here is just the faces where my bounding box is touching is going to extrude. So if I just go ahead and press group, I don't put the display on it, I can make my bounding box a little bit smaller. And now I can move the box wherever I want, and whatever faces I am now touching will be the ones that get extruded. Now, if you really wanted to get creative, what you could do is that this group node has a second input. Now, if you put your mouse right, or a pointer right on the second input, it says bounding object input 2. So what you could do is, like, suppose that you created a, if you wanted to use Roberto. Oh, hell, let's just go grab Roberto. If I click, I'm going to click tab, and I'm going to type rubber toy, and voila, we have Roberto. Now Roberto is going to be wireframe, but if I go in and hook Roberto up to group, and then I'm going to go in partial this, then, all right, is this going to work? Okay, it's making me a liar now. Okay, I've never used this before, so shame on me for trying to do something like that. Technically, I thought that this would work, but I haven't figured out how to use it yet. But I thought we could use Roberto to go in and control it. Wherever Roberto touches will cause the group to react to it or do the poly extrude on it. I'm going to get rid of Roberto there. So that is selecting by bounding region. We can change that to selecting by normals. And normals is looking like, right now, everything, it's going in all four sides, and that's because our spread angle is 180 degrees. And so here's our normal that we're looking at. It says direction 001. Now can somebody tell me what direction 001 is?
1 in the z direction.
1 in the z direction, excellent. Okay, so then we have an arrow pointing in the z direction, but it's got a wide range of 180 degrees. So that means it's going to go 180 degrees around it. If we wanted to make it more narrow, put the spread angle down to something like 20 or 45 or something. And so now, only those faces that are faced in the z direction will get selected. And if we wanted to go with the up direction, does somebody know what the up direction is? Y, exactly. So if we make this z value 0 and put 1 in here, then the y value will. And so that's cool again, because now what we could do is go to the box stop here, and then we can change the number of divisions to whatever we want, but it will only choose just the top face here. So only the top face got extruded now. Does that make sense? All right. Now, there's one thing I didn't explain to you folks earlier, and that I kind of skipped over by accident. If you, okay, I've got the box highlighted. Now, if we're playing with these axes divisions, if you press the middle mouse wheel down, what comes up is called the Houdini slider. Now, this is an industry standard, and other packages have incorporated this, and they just said, okay, screw it, this is a great interface. Let's just call it the Houdini slider. All right, you can move, when you press it, you move the cursor up and down to choose the units that you want to move in, and then move the mouse left and right to control the amount of change that you want on it.
Oh, that's cool.
And like I said, this is an industry standards, and other packages do use this. And it's called the Houdini slider. And this goes down into the negative. If we wanted to change the center point, we move it around an X. So if I click on the center X here, and it goes into the decimal ranges as well. So you can get very precise. Here it is, it's not hard to even move and change the wheels. But I go over here to 100 and whoop, you kind of let it zip right off. And so in Houdini, you can go ahead and grab all three of these axes at once just by clicking the name of the channel rather than all three of the channels. And then you can just move those along and it will do all three at the exact same time. Okay, I goofed up with Roberto, but I'm not going to goof up with a sphere. So I'm going to go ahead and just hit Tab and then drop in a sphere. And I'm going to change the primitive type. I'm going to put the display on the sphere. Change the primitive type to polygon. And then on the frequency, I'm just going to go and crank that thing right to 10. So we got a very detailed sphere here. Now, if I drop sphere into the group rather than the box, and then put the display on my poly extrude, it turns into Glenn Plake, and he gets freaky ass hair. And so what we can do is we can control the spread angle to control how much hair that we want. Or, you know, we've got these little spiky hairs, and if we wanted to go primitive, if we go into the poly extrude, we can change this to divide into connected components, and they're all connected. But I'm going to keep it into individual elements, and then I'm going to change the inset on these so that they all get tapered to a point, and so they're like instant punk rocker. And so you can just go back to the group if you want to tighten up the spread, make it smaller, it makes it smaller, or you can fully expand that. So you can get the instant spiky roll. Now you can do groups based on action. You can go on edges, but what I'm going to do is let's do some simple modeling. Like okay, let's go and create something really simple here, really quick here. So I'm going to go up And I'm going to turn off this geo, and I'm going to call this just spiky here so I remember what it is. And so I'm going to drop in a new geometry, and then I'm going to double click that. I'm going to call it gear. And then I'm going to drop into gear. And now this time, I'm not going to use a box. I'm going to use a tube. So click tab and hit tube, and we'll drop in a tube. I'm going to change my primitive type to polygons. I'm going to hit end caps equals true. I'm going to make the height, about like something short, like 0.4. And I'm going to change the number of columns to about 50. Really crank on it. Okay, anyone have any problems laying down the tube? Now we're going to use groups to identify the teeth. So instead of using the exact grouping technique that we used before with the group node, we're going to use a different group called group by range. So if you drag off the tube and then hit tab and say group by range, and click that on there, and go ahead and click the display on that, you see that it picked everything. But what we want to do is where it says range filter, instead of 1 of 1, which means everything, click 1 of 2. Click that, and you'll see that it's selected every other one of these polygons, but it also selected the top, and, well, it didn't select the bottom. That's because it selects every other one. So it sort of worked. If we change this to 1 of 3, then everything sort of works except for this one point where these two are really close to each other. Now we could fix that just by dorking around with the tube, go back to the tube and change like the number of columns. Change that to like 51. And then because it's 51 divides by 3 evenly, then we got 3 evenly spaced gears out of that. But that's kind of a kludgy way of fixing things. And we still had to deal with the top of the face, that we had to deal with this. So if we were to go ahead and append a poly extrude node, and then whatever, and then change my group. Oh, okay. So let's see that we can change group 1, which is default, the group there that was great because we forgot to give it a name. If we go and pull that, it pulls the whole thing, but we've got the top to deal with, and it's pulling the sides as well. Now, did I lose anyone on that because I forgot to give the group a name?
Mine never, when I put the group in, it never grabbed the, oh, it just did, never mind.
Okay.
Yeah, mine didn't. I don't know what.
I did something to fix it.
Okay. So we got 1 of 3. Okay, we got the 2. Okay, everything looks fine there. Okay, group 1 of 3, group name, group. Polygons, quadrilaterals, polygons and caps. Okay. let's see. The tube. Okay. Got that. We want end caps. We got which way one?
We can do polygons.
Polygons? Yeah, polygons. Alright. And we got end vertices. Let's change the height. 0.4. Columns to that. Go group by range. Okay, why does it show that? I don't know why it doesn't show that. You know, why it doesn't show it. My guess. Click here, enter. Oh, there it goes.
Oh.
I don't know why. You had been successfully able to get into some kind of funky mode. But I'm going to change this to 51. And so I'm going to go ahead and click on there, on the extrude. And so when I grab this, it grabs that, but we forgot to tell it which group to use for the poly extrude, so we go ahead and set this group 1. Okay? Yeah. Anyone else have any problems?
Mine's just not grabbing the.
I was doing it. You just got to put the display on the poly extrude.
Alright.
Okay, anyone else have any problems? Okay, so there we go. But we don't want the top faces. Now there's a bunch of ways that we could go ahead and fix that. But I'm going to give you the kind of like simplest one. And we're going to take advantage of the topology. Now if we go and click on, put the display back on tube and click on tube, so we're just looking at the tube. I'm going to get out of my, interactive mode by going into select. And I'm going to click on faces. We'll display the primitive numbers. That's that square with a 12 on it. If I look at that, and I look at that, it says 0 and 1 are always the top and bottom. If we go and change columns, we'll see that 0 and 1 are always the top and bottom. So that's kind of cool. So what we could do is I'm going to put the extrude, the display on the poly extrude. I'm going to turn off my numbers because they're distracting. But now in this group by range, where it says select one of 3, I'm going to leave that there. But in the start, instead of starting at 0, I'm going to say start at 2, because I know I don't want polygon 0. I don't want polygon 1. So if I put 2 there, then it automatically disappears. Now we have, we instantly got rid of the top and bottom of the face. Now there's a whole bunch of other ways that we could go into, but we got to keep things moving along. But we just took advantage of the point information. Remember how I said that when you start doing procedurally, keeping track of the numbers and the order of the data is super important? Well, here's where the data came to our aid, and we were able to create something, beneficial for it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, we've got this going, which is cool. So I'm going to create a duplicate of this entire stuff because I kind of like where we're going, but I don't want to destroy it. So since I selected group range and poly extrude, I'm going to hit Alt after I've selected those, and then I've got a duplicate of that. So I've now duplicated the entire geometry and I've created a whole new path for myself to go into. Okay, now what I'm going to, okay, I'm going to show you a different technique. Group it out, that's kind of boring. It's going into that. Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, you kind of have to do this. Okay. All right. So this is an alternative way of doing things. So what we're going to do is, for this group range, we're going to change this up a little bit. And we're going to call this group name, oh, okay. So in between the group range and the poly extrude, I'm going to put in a group. So I'm going to just go ahead and click tab, hit the group key. And we've got group. Go ahead and put group right in the middle there. And that kind of got rid of everything because the name group runs. So I want to make sure that I don't get confused anymore. So go back up to group 2. It's just not going to work using group 1. So change the name of that group to gears. And now go down to poly extrude and change the name of group and just change that one to gears. And it goes back to where it was. And so we have this group that is now non-destructive and we have a different path. So click on group 1 and now change this one to up facing. So change the name to up facing. Something to know that we only want the up facing ones. So we want to turn the base group off, but for the, I want to keep my normals. And so we want only the normals facing up. So the direction is 0, 1, 0. And put the spread angle at like 55, something small. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate that node again. So I'm going to hit Alt and drag it off there. And then, like a mad dog, I'm going to shake it loose. Come on. Shake loose. And then I'm going to stick it right between group 1 and the poly extrude. And then I'm going to change the name instead of up facing, I'm going to say down facing. Oops. And the direction here, I'm going to put that to -1. And so we've got these, now we've got 3 groups going on here, but we're still only looking at, we're only extruding the 2 extrude group, the gears group that we've got up here. So what we're going to do is we can do some kind of like operations on the groups, and we can do some Boolean operations on them. So after group 2, stick in a group combine node. So look for group, and then look for group combine. Grab that node and stick that in there. And now we're going to do some Boolean logic, but we're not going to write anything complicated. We're just going to say group name. We're going to say gears equals, well, we want gears to kind of stay the same, but we want to remove the up facing and the down facing. So we're going to say, well, gears equals gears, right? We want us to start with gears. And then we come down to this line where it says none. We're going to go subtraction. And then go subtract with. And then I'm just going to choose down facing. And then I'm going to choose up facing. So now when we hit the poly extrude, we didn't change anything to our gears group. All we did was modify it. We just changed it so that the up face and the down face were no longer being poly extruded. Okay, anyone having any troubles getting rid of that? Okay, working? So this has an interesting side effect. So that although we have the group, gears, creating the actual group, if we click on the I button, or if we put the middle mouse wheel on our poly extrude, it says that, okay, we've got the down-facing group, there's 12 primitives in the gears group and the up face. And that means we still have the up face and the down face as well as the groups. So we can take advantage of that, as now we can start going crazy on the up facing and the down facing. So what we could do is just drag that off here and drag in a bevel saw. Poly bevel. I'm sorry, you could be going and doing the C and then choosing all of those. That way it's old habit of mine to look for the operation and that. But I'm going to put the poly bevel on here. And now for my group, I'm going to choose up facing and down facing. And then I'm going to, for the distance, I'm just going to drag on that. And you'll see that it extrudes the top and bottom. Oops. Oops. Come on. Yeah, there. And so it's extruding only those top and face bottoms, and it's doing the bevel on each of those. And if we wanted to create the number of divisions, we can go in and add some more there. And so what you see now is we've got a nice curved bevel surrounding those things. Well, that's all good, but what we could do is we can still manipulate that even further. If we wanted to go in and then tack on a poly extrude again, and then set my group to down facing and then up facing. And now I go ahead and hit enter to go into enter mode and interact with the stuff. Now I can go ahead and move just, okay, so facing, down facing, pen the bubble. Oh, okay. So I did this wrong. But no worries, because we can go backwards. Where it says poly extrude, it said gears. But now, if you could, where it says front group, oops, poly bevel, well, that's my poly bevel, poly extrude. Now what happens if I hit front group? I say, that goes, I set that to true. And so what it does is it creates a new group called extrude front. Well, that's not right. Let's see, do I have to insert a poly extrude? I'm gonna get rid of this poly extrude right here at the end. And so I'm going to put another poly extrude in the in here in between my first two, and then I'm going to choose down facing and then up facing, to put the display on that. So is that doing what I want it to do? Yeah. That's doing it right. So I've got my up facing and my down facing group. Yeah, that's right. And if I wanted to make it smaller, move the inset in a little bit, I can move that. Yeah, that's right. Okay, cool. Now, if I want to do this again, where it says the front group, to make that to true, so we're creating a new group called Extrude Front. So that means that this face and the other face are now being selected. Now, if I go into this poly bevel, if I change the up face and the down facing, and just change that to Extrude Front. Nope, still not working. Tells you they don't use these. So I'm going to change this back to up facing and down facing. And now I'm going to append another poly extrude. Nope. And then which group do I want? Oh, let's see if we want to do this extrude front work. Yeah. Oh. No, I don't want those, it included those. So I don't want the extrude front group. I want the down facing and the up facing group. Will that work? That would be good enough. And then change the inset. So it's a little bit smaller. And then I'm going to hit Q to, I'm going to go ahead and add just another poly extrude. And I'm going to choose my down facing and my up facing again. Okay, you know, I am playing around here. I'm just going to move these. All I did was remove that last poly extrude. I'm sorry. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and just push this one down until it meets the one underneath it. And you can tell it's meeting the one underneath it because the inner circle goes black. Yeah, sorry about that confusion. So they're interpenetrating each other. Okay, is anyone having any problems getting to this point of where they're where there's a black circle in the middle? All right, so what we have to do now is we have to fuse these nodes here. So what we have to do here is, will this work? I'm afraid I got kind of lost here. Let's go ahead and, what groups do I have here? Yeah, I screwed this up. Okay, let's see if I can salvage it. Let's go ahead and we have this group and this group. And so what I'm going to click on the front group on this last one. I think if that works. So click that and then drag that down and then hit tab and then blast. And it blasted the whole thing. But I only want to blast just the extrude front. Yeah, and it is broken. I screwed up along the way here. But what you can see, what we did was my extrude front group got morphed. I wasn't doing my attention. So what we have is a broken thing. So what I have to go through now is identify where my extrude front goofed, and I
think it's the very first extrude after you combine the groups. I think
oh
you check
really?
front group. Yeah.
And I click this one.
Yeah.
If I unclick this one.
That just worked for me.
Okay, there it is. There you go. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So what we have here is externally a gear that works. It's still not perfect yet, but I made some mistakes along the way here, and thank you very much for your patience on that. So it's kind of like a little bit of programming and some modeling and so forth, but you can go back and figure out, where the mistake was, rather than having to go and recreate the whole thing. And if you wanted to, you could go in and insert beveling or more edge loops at any point along the way and add things up again. Now, are there any questions before I let you go here? Because that's kind of like what I wanted to cover today. There's a lot of stuff covered here. There's a lot of stuff. But I wanted to try to get this out of the way because I'm just going to kind of assume that you guys will be able to model stuff like this as we go on to the rest of the Houdini lectures and so forth. So what we're going to do next week is we're going to see if we're going to continue creating stuff in Houdini, creating digital assets, and then moving that over to the engine, and then using the engine to interact with the digital asset itself and actually use it to construct and put stuff together. I think you'll find this stuff real interesting, and it's a pretty cool demo. So definitely going to be more exciting than today's. But today's I wanted to just get out of the way and make sure that you guys had this into your arsenal so that you'll be able to keep up with me in the future. Are there any other questions? Now, are there also any other desires or of any areas that you wish me to focus on? Because otherwise, I just kind of pick stuff that I find, and my stuff that I'm interested in may not be what you're interested in.
I'd be kind of interested in looking at like the Boolean
Booleans,
operations in this and seeing like how they work and what kind of cleanup is needed for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll start working on that. I can't guarantee it within the next couple weeks, but probably by 2 or 3 weeks from now, I can put that together.
Okay, yeah, that's not a problem.
Okay. Anything else?
Houdini can do procedural animation, right?
Yep.
I'd be down to see some of that.
Okay.
Nice.
That's like I said, I heard elephants are big. Can you show me that? Yeah, I can show you that.
You asked, it's fair.
Well, is there, okay, to help,
You don't
to help my job a little bit, is there any type of procedural
I
motion?
have no idea. If you don't,
Okay.
if you don't want that, I'm not gonna.
Oh, no, that's my favorite area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's my favorite area. I could go on
I
for,
just don't know what
I could teach an
options I have.
entire semester just on Houdini procedural, animation.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what my options are, so.
Oh, yeah, well, if anything, you know, excites you or comes to your mind, you know, feel free to bring on, because,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a whole, I mean, like I said, I literally could give an entire semester just on, just the procedural
Just-
animation. Yeah, I love it.
I'll look into those or something.
Oh, it's, like I said, be prepared to be avalanched.
I'm completely okay with that.
All right, if you have anything that you else want me to cover, you know, please get with me, and I'll be happy to look into it and then work it into the schedule. Because, as Tyler just discovered, if left to my own brothers, I'm gonna be focusing on procedural animation the whole time, and that's probably not what you're interested in.
I mean, I would do.
Well, we got the animators going at it for it. Now, are you guys interested at all at looking at Houdini keyframe animation?
Yeah,
You know, for characters?
yeah.
Okay, that'll be a quick one. Not because it's bad, just because it's easy. My claim to fame is that when I was working in Hollywood, I rigged a series of characters in Houdini for some animators that had never used Houdini before in their life. In the morning, I gave them their characters, and by lunchtime, they were completing scenes. But they were doing straightforward, Jonathan, 12 principles of animation, keyframe animation, nothing different than that in Maya. It's just that the interface itself is so intuitive. If you create it a certain way, then you can really speed up the process.
I like that a lot.
As soon as I can run up that. There, what happened then?
Yeah, so tune in next week. It's going to be, we're going to go on with Houdini Engine and get things going again, and things are going to get really exciting again. Oops, got in my screen. Thank you, folks. Tune in for Houdini.
So when
Next
we were
week.
like, I was getting it out, and then I, fucked up the